A mysterious glow on the lunar surface.
I think everyone believes that Cernan saw something, but we're trying to figure out what it is.
Contradicts everything we think we know about the moon.
This was like heresy. You can't think about the moon being alive.
There's a light, it's overhead, it shouldn't be there, and that's all there is to it.
"18 months before the historic launch of Apollo 11, unmanned lander Surveyor 7 touches down on the moon. The pictures it sends back baffle scientists.
The moon is supposed to be dead. At least that's what we're told. There's no tectonic activity, there's no seismic activity, and yet there's an unexplained light over the surface of the moon.
When scientists saw this bright outline of the landscape of the moon, they were just dumbfounded.
There's all kinds of lines of evidence that there's something going on. The question is what?
Everything we know about this dead rock tells us it shouldn't be capable of producing light. But when people start asking questions, the scientific establishment closes ranks.
They couldn't believe it, therefore they didn't study it. And in fact, people were fired, there were losses of jobs.
Undeterred, rookie planetary scientist Dr. Peter Schultz begins his own research.
I saw something and realized if I tried to publish that, I would be dead. It was very dangerous to publish anything about this. It was terribly controversial, it could ruin a career. I couldn't talk about it. I kept it secret.
For years, the mystery remains unsolved. But when Apollo 17 astronaut Eugene Cernan reports similar phenomena, the scientific community takes notice.
He was in the Apollo 17 command module. He was in darkness, and he was looking out at the horizon, and before sunlight hit the spacecraft, they could see a glow on the horizon, and then these much more bright streamers.
Cernan and the other Apollo astronauts witnessed these streamers of light shooting past the Apollo module, more than 60 miles above the lunar surface.
One thing you have to ask yourself is, was this purely imagination? But they drew pictures. They drew very detailed images of what they saw. And some of them actually kind of looked like what surveyors saw. Now, I think it was very compelling, very convincing, but it still was strange, just mysterious.
In the face of such compelling testimony, NASA attempts to explain what could be causing these incredible lights.
The Apollo 17 testimony was that they saw almost like sunbeams coming off the horizon before the sun rose. That makes no sense.
On Earth, atmospheric refractions allow us to see light before sunrise. On the moon, with almost no atmosphere, there is nothing to refract the light.
It must be caused by something scattering the light that the observer is seeing.
NASA speculates that the glow could be sunlight scattered by dust particles that have somehow risen off the lunar surface.
People came around to the idea that it should be dust pretty quickly. And so the question became, well, what's causing the dust to move? And that's where the intrigue is.
On a seemingly inert rock with almost no atmosphere, dust should remain firmly on the lunar surface. So what is violently propelling the dust up into the lunar sky?
Somehow you have to get the dust up to some altitude for it to scatter light. And so we're looking at processes that kick up dust, and that includes impacts from meteorites. It also could arise from electrical effects.
The moon is covered with dust, these tiny little particles, and when the sun hits it, it kicks off electrons, and that makes the dust positive charged. And so the dust on the moon begins to behave like jumping beans, and they just simply jump around, and that's what scatters the light.
If plumes of dust are being propelled away from the lunar surface, it could have serious ramifications for future moon missions.
The moon dust is extremely fine, and if it's bouncing around, and you have a spacecraft that's going around the moon for a very long time, it's like a bullet. It can slam into a window, slam into a fuel tank. There's some dangers.
LADEE, the Lunar Atmosphere and Dust Environment Explorer, already in orbit around the moon, could provide answers.
I think we will get to the bottom. I think we will solve it. But with every NASA mission, with every space mission, they create more questions.